Good evening, everyone. My name is Gyan Bhambani, and I'm the host of the Entrepreneurship Insights Podcast. Tonight, I want to welcome Arvind Agarwal to the show. He is what we can call today a technopreneur and has reached success by founding multiple software-based firms. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today, Arvind. Thank you.
Thank you, Gyan.
Yeah. So, just to start this all off, can you give us some background? How did you discover entrepreneurship, and when did you decide that you wanted to really explore this further?
So, I actually never thought of anything else in reality. I started computers were pretty new when I was young. I think when I was about 15 years old, or rather like 14 years old, I got access to my first computer, and then I got hooked into that and started learning about it. Then I started actually helping one of my relatives to create their accounting software, just created for them, and that got me hooked into that. I can actually create that accounting software. At that time, I didn't know anything about accounting, but that experience helped me. And then I thought of making it packaged and then just went into it. So it just kind of just happened with the flow. And as such, my family background has been all about entrepreneurship. Everybody's been entrepreneur, so that also helped. So I was never thinking of a job at all. So that's how I kind of went into it.
Wow, that's really interesting to hear, because from the past entrepreneurs we've had on the show, I've heard quite a few different experiences, and one of them actually, like, it was in the family, and most of the times when it's in the family, like the children, in this case, your generation is like more likely to pick it up. Right. And for you, it was just discovering computers at a young age and building something for a relative. Right?
Yeah.
So what do you enjoy what did you enjoy most about your experiences as an entrepreneur and just that sort of lifestyle?
So what I really enjoy about entrepreneurship is all the freedom you get with it. Right. I mean, so I think the way you can describe it is if you are kind of doing your regular job, it's like you're driving in a like traffic with traffic lights all over the place, and you're stopping every time, you're following the set patterns. Maybe there is a ATM, but the amount of money you can withdraw from them is limited. And think about entrepreneurship like a highway. Right, you're just going a highway. There are no rules. You are going with your own rules, and sometimes you are getting treasure, and sometimes you are getting nothing. That is also part of the entrepreneurship experience. But I think at end of the day, the freedom that you get, that is I think the biggest enjoyment, and being able to do what you feel is right. Right, what you feel is right is the key word there, not somebody else taking call for you, or not following somebody else's direction. You are your own boss. I think that's the biggest enjoyment for me of entrepreneurship, and over a period of time, I mean, I've touched many other lives. I mean, when I am successful as an entrepreneur, you're touching so many more lives and making them successful. That is also a different feeling and experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that traffic light and highway analogy. I've never heard of it, and I've never actually thought of it that way, right? But and like you said, there's always another edge to that sword, right? Like there's always that freedom, but sometimes you get nothing or you get everything, right? It's that type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So by your short narrative, I'm guessing that there may have been some obstacles that you had faced, and how did you really deal with those obstacles and keep your goals in mind?
So I think obstacle is part of it. I mean, it's part of life. Whether you become an entrepreneur or you do a job, you will have obstacles. So I think it's nothing unique to entrepreneurship. Only difference in entrepreneurship is, when you're an entrepreneur, you're against the wall. Right? You can't go and blame somebody else and say, you do something for me. You have to do something at that point of time. And I think so. Those kind of you have to basically learn to deal with those obstacles, not get bogged down with them, because it's very easy to give up on those moments where you know that you don't have any other option, or like you have to make tough choices or tough calls. But I think what has always helped me is just self-belief, and thinking that if I can logically think of some solution for the problem or the obstacle I'm facing, I think it will all work out at the end. I think that self-belief is the most important virtue there, according to me.
Yeah, sometimes that self-motivation really helps people, right? Because sometimes your friends or your coworkers or your employees aren't going to be there to take the blame, and it's just all up to you to decide how you want to deal with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, knowing what you do now, would you do anything differently? I know this is a little bit too early, but you started your first venture at, I think, in 11th grade, and so
Yeah.
it makes it unnecessary to ask a question. But would you start this journey even earlier?
In reality, I started my journey a little earlier than that. I mean, my first successful venture was in that time frame. But I think start as early as possible in entrepreneurship, because it's all about entrepreneurship. Key thing about entrepreneurship is not really skills or anything, because I think people who do job also have skills, and they probably might be more qualified than me and maybe more smarter than me. But key thing in entrepreneurship is ability to take risk. Right? If you can take risk, is what really defines you differently from others. And when you are young, you have the most amount of ability to take risk, because at least not others are not dependent upon you. You are at least you're on your own. That's about it, right? And you are probably not spoiled by the life if you have like been successful. I think so. Ability to take risk is the risk is minimal as early as you start. So I would say start as early as possible. Whenever the entrepreneurship bugs bites you, just get into it.
Thank you for that advice. Like I guess, but you could really think of it like it's not too late to start either, right? Like even if you're 30 or 35, right? Like it's still earlier than starting at 40.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is not about age. Only thing I'm saying is the risk quotient is lesser when you are younger. As you kind of grow older, you have responsibilities, you have family, and then your risk is higher. Because as I said, entrepreneurship, when you are in that highway, you may not get anything, or you may get treasure, right? So there are days when you don't have anything, and then you have to still survive, and then you are actually, making it hard, not just for you, but for your family and everybody else, right? I mean, everybody else has to be committed with that. So it just becomes more riskier. That's about it. I think it's nothing else. So if you have enough buffer or things like that, then I think go for it. There's no age limit there. I've known people who started becoming entrepreneur after 50 years, and then they've still been successful. So there's no age bar. And I've been entrepreneur as early as I've been, and similarly, my brothers have been entrepreneurs, and I think all of them have started early, and they've been successful. So I think there's absolutely no age bar. It's just about risk.
Yeah, I definitely agree, right? It's just that when you're younger, you have different responsibilities, and just the way you're able to deal with that risk, that responsibility, I guess, sort of defines sort of defines your success as an entrepreneur. And so now let's get into your ventures, right? So your first venture we discussed, you started when you were only in 11th grade. It was an accounting software that you packaged, and it actually competed with the number one in India at that time. And so just tell us a little bit more about it. Like what jobs did it entail? How did you really discover your passions for entrepreneurship, or your side passions with that first venture?
Yeah. So as I said, I had absolutely zero knowledge of accounting at that age, and I think just I happened to create or help my relative to computerize his accounts, and that's how I kind of gained knowledge, and then it kind of gave me belief that I could actually do it in a better way, and I had absolutely no idea of what competition was out there at that point of time. It was like very nascent stages. I'm talking about like early 90s, in that time frame. Like even there was no GUI based environment by then, right? We used to work on the text DOS based environments, and so at that point of time, kind of like that initial success, really kind of gave me a lot of confidence, and I generally enjoyed coding. I was the first one to get introduced to computers in my family. That nobody else had any clues, because obviously it was very early days. So I used to buy books off the street. In India at that point of time, even getting books was difficult. Forget about internet, there was no internet. So today, you guys are fortunate to have so much of knowledge available online. Anything you want, you get it. But I had to, at that point of time, get knowledge out of books. And in India, even this latest computer books were not available. And if they were available, they were super expensive. So surprisingly, India, I used to find books with street vendors. So somehow, like the imported books used to land up with the street vendors, and I used to pick up those books and read from them. That just kind of made me really super interested in programming. And every time, like I coded, I could, it kind of feels like you have superpowers. You code something and you're telling somebody else to do computer to do something, and it does it exactly what you're telling it to do. So that all like really created a lot of interest in me, and then I kind of thought of just creating this as a package service, this first accounting software. And I actually sold it to a lot of chartered accountants too. So I had about 400 odd customers for that at that age. And so I think that's how I kind of got into it, and really got into not just building software, but building a software product. That time where there were very few companies who were building software products too. So it was a really interesting experience.
Wow, thank you. I feel like especially in the 90s, like people were looking for more of an automated type of, I guess, living. And so like the way you found like you didn't even know accounting, but then you found these coding books, and then you just sort of developed that into something more concrete. And I feel like it's not the process of creating just any software isn't the thing about it, isn't the takeaway. I guess it's creating a software that's actually needed, right? The reason you achieve so much success is because that, hey, these accountants really needed that upper hand.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that was really the key. You can't create anything and expect people to buy it if they don't need it. So I think that's like the basics of any entrepreneurship and start something where people need things, not just start making arbitrarily something. Obviously, sometimes you have to still go with your guts, and there's nothing wrong with that. But obviously, it has to still solve a problem for somebody.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I can't help but go back to that same analogy of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. You have something, you just need someone to sell it.
Yeah.
So, what were your obstacles? Like, what were your obstacles looking like for this software package venture? And how did you deal with it?
So I think this was, as you can imagine, I was fairly young, and I was doing this all alone. I had one more colleague with me who was helping out a bit, but both of us were like techies, and we had no idea of how to run a business, how to price a product, how to reach out to customers, how to provide support. And so I could only build the software, but I didn't know anything else. So I think getting into other areas was like the most challenging task for me, and that's where I would say my biggest challenges were. But I guess what sailed me through was just like self-belief that I can just figure it out. You just have to apply some basic logic and just go and get there. Always like you have a little bit of doubt still when you're starting this early, that are you doing it in the right way, or and without any internet at that point of time to validate your thought process, and I think knowledge sharing also was very limited at that point of time. It was limited to like people had the knowledge, but sharing was probably not as big as what it is today. So I think those were really the challenges, and self-belief sailed me through some of them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That just with a little logic and trial and error, you can get through it. And so you mentioned that you sold it to over 400 customers. So how did you do that? Did you just go walk, knock on everyone's door like, hey, you need this, or like how did you sell that?
And so in fact there was share of that too. So I in fact hired a couple of salespeople who would go and knock businesses and then tell them this is the software, and we buy it. And then we participated in some events. There was an event where a lot of chartered accountants were going to be there. That's where I got like my biggest customer base from chartered accounting perspective. When they saw the package, they were blown away, and kind of really became successful at that point.
Yeah. So for your case, you decided to hire salespeople. So, like you said earlier, like when there's a goal, there's a way, and you have to somehow figure it out. So, what life lessons did you learn? Like, even though this was relatively earlier, but what life lessons did you learn and carried on to your next ventures? And how did your first experience help you?
So I think from life lesson perspective, probably my lessons came from this venture. Probably I realized those mistakes I made after maybe 10 years. When you reflect on things where you went wrong, and maybe immediately, obviously what I gained out of it was a lot of experience. But I actually didn't sell this particular first venture. Beyond a point, I actually got really frustrated with it because I was having many customers, my pricing for the product was not right, and then I got burned out because I was building software, I was supporting it, I was selling it, I was marketing it. I was doing everything, and that really burned me out at that age. So I got so fed up, I actually handed it over to one of my employees, and he said, I just want to get out of it at one point of time. And when I kind of look at it again after 10 years, I think I would have been doing that package till now, or it would have like taken me places. I mean, I could have still be running that same company. Probably 3-4 years ago, one of my customers who was using that package called me, and he said, I somehow found you out on the internet, and are you still making that package? Because he said, I have used your package, and after that I've used so many other packages, but I never liked anything. I want to go back to your package if you have something. So that kind of makes you feel that what I had created was so good. And I kind of just got frustrated and left it in between. If I would have taken it through and probably applied some more business knowledge to it, I think I would have really made this very big success. But I kind of lost that opportunity. So I think that is what I would say was biggest learning, that don't give up too soon. There will be those days where you'll not find anything, but just sail through it. There will be treasure waiting somewhere. You just need to look for it.
Yeah, I guess for in the case of your experience, you just like it was. I guess it went from very slow to very fast. You had to put on all the caps of being an entrepreneur, right? Marketing, actually developing it, right? Sales, like everything, right? And so at that time, I can understand it may have been too overwhelming, right? But in the hindsight, like when you look at it, like especially that call, I feel like that's the call that really made you reflect, or you may have done that's the call that really made you say, hey, I've made an impact on the world. And I feel like that's the type of, I guess, motivation that entrepreneurs are looking for, right? The fact that whatever they put out there is actually helping people. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
But actually, the problem is one thing you need to realize as an entrepreneur, or as like even in a company when you are at a senior level, typically customers will only come to you to complain. Right? When things are going well, they don't come and tell you that things are going well. And if you kind of just look at these complaints, you might think that, what are you doing? Is anything working? Everybody is talking about complaints and things are not working. But underlying, if you look at the rest of the business that is getting through, and a lot of times when people don't say anything, they actually mean a lot of things too. And even people who complain are people who actually love you back, because that is they're invested in your product and they like working on your product. So that is very, very important, that even if you get paid, don't take that as face value. There are still people who love you, and people who hate you also at least find it worth their time to come and complain to you. So that means you did something right or wrong, but you hit the right pain point for them, and you are not able to solve it. So go out there and probably make it better and do it again.
Yeah, I guess I guess it's all about like the attention that you garner, right? In a way.
Yeah.
And so you started your own e-commerce venture called Net Galactic, and so just would you mind telling us about your experiences? Like, what was it like entering a new field, and how did you adapt?
I think for this particular venture, I mean, that's a long story, but I kind of partnered with one more person, or rather two more people, who were already playing in e-commerce space, or rather they were actually doing static website at that point of time. At that time, static website also, everything was, there was no internet, and internet had just started. And then the e-commerce started picking up, and so a lot of US companies were looking at outsourcing partners to build those high traffic e-commerce sites. So somehow we got involved in that. So we were backing for a lot of high traffic e-commerce sites in US at one point of time. So it gradually happened, and I think to get in domain, I didn't have to specifically do much, because this time I partnered with people who were already doing that, but what they were lacking was the technical skills to build, say, e-commerce site, which I had enough and more knowledge on, like how to create some of those things based on my background. And so real challenge there was to create those high traffic sites, and so that was fairly okay for me, because that was my passion anyway, technology. And so I didn't face, I think, any specific challenges per se, except at one point of time there was a .com bust, which happened in year 2000 or so, and overnight, like all businesses, e-commerce businesses were wiped out, so we were also affected. But apart from that, I think it was actually going pretty well.
Yeah, this sort of reminds me of Shopify, and correct me if I'm wrong here. So you sort of developed something relating to something relating.
It was not a product per se. I say Shopify is a productized, it's a product for people to put your e-commerce on it's a e-commerce platform per se. What we did was we built custom e-commerce platforms for people, right? So if there was our customer vitaminshop.com, obviously to our customer's customer, but so we would kind of enable the real back-end infrastructure for e-commerce for them in a way. So that was what it was.
Yeah, so they'd be able to actually purchase whatever they wanted from that.
Yes.
So what steps would you recommend teen entrepreneurs to take in order to dive into e-commerce, since this is kind of like the future of entrepreneurship?
I won't say just e-commerce is future of entrepreneurship. I think future of entrepreneurship is always evolving, and e-commerce is now such a big word. There's and probably I'm not well equipped to answer that specific question, because as you know, my knowledge is very dated, 2 decades old knowledge, which probably has no value in today's e-commerce space. So I wouldn't suggest anybody go by my recommendations on e-commerce today, because I will be bad at that at this time, because markets have completely changed.
Alright, that's completely fine. But you later started Zapti, a company that develops software.
No, I started a company called Skelta before, after Netflix.
Yeah, so we can go back. You developed a company named Skelta in the BPM and workflow automation space. Would you mind going into more detail as what problem did it solve in the world? Like, what problem did you see that you wanted to solve?
So, with my background in accounting and ERP kind of software, and then doing this e-commerce backends and all, what we saw, and especially with e-commerce, where I was doing custom e-commerce solutions and things like that, and even for my accounting software, I used to customize it a lot of time. So what I see was what differed for people was their workflow, right? Like how they work, their work patterns. Those are the ones which kind of differed. So at that point of time, I thought of how can I use that knowledge and productize it. Right? So that's where Skelta was, ideas of Skelta was born. And that time, a lot of people started getting into products of their own. So my idea was everybody would need something like this, where they want to add workflow capabilities to their software. So that point of time, I started thinking of, can I make it embeddable in any product? So hence, in fact, we were the first one in the world to come out with an embeddable workflow engine and a workflow designer in a product. So others can just take that product and embed it in their product and extend their product and make it like fully customizable from workflow perspective. So that was something unique, and that's how I conceptualized the idea. But I at that point of time, purely just went by my past experience and gut, and said I should just kind of implement something and try it out, and luckily that worked.
Yeah, so you started off by identifying that, okay, hey, like, how can I universalize this workflow optimization? And so you look for capabilities that you can tie within each one, right? Because people are going to sell their own products, and so a way for them to just connect to the backend more easily is where Skelter came in.
So it's not just backend; it's just like completely customization of workflow, and in fact it had a lot of user interface or the front end tools so that people could completely build their workflow on their own. The end users could build their workflows on their own.
Oh wow! So like Bubble, right, where you can build your web apps.
Kind of, yes, kind of.
All right, makes sense. So after Skelta, you started Zapti, which is a company which is coming to develop software like Discord now or Slack. So how did you really hone your passions for computer programming through that?
So I think passion for computer programming per se, I think since I've been always involved with the technology and product side, I think that is like a given. I didn't have to do anything specific for that. If you talk in terms of how I came up with the thought process or idea, I think after doing workflow product, and then I kind of sold it, and then we were thinking what to build next, and the thought process there was that can we actually democratize the workflow space where we make it even more easier for people to create this workflow, and how can we make it smart and engaging so that as you're doing things, like make it more ad hoc, but your ad hoc practices should then get converted to automated workflows, and so to like really capture the ad hoc workflows, we thought we need something conversational, and that's where the idea of Zapti came along. There was no Slack when we started Zapti. So I don't want to say it was like Slack that point of time. Now I can say it was like Slack. And then on top of that conversational interface, we added a complete paradigm of managing your work on top of that. So work was like integral part of your conversations in Zapti. And our vision was that can we learn from the conversations and then automate the recurring processes, the recurring patterns. So that's how we conceptualized Zapti, and yeah, I think so that's how we got into Zapti.
That's really interesting, because just I know that there are some differences, but like I guess just this whole process of continuously just building on this passion is really important. And so I want to ask you, how have you built your network over the years? Has your network helped you had you like start your previous ventures, and so like have they had a part in your entrepreneurial journey?
I would say I'm a very bad example of working in space because I'm generally not into working personally, and whatever I'm saying does not reflect on what you should be doing from networking perspective. I kind of like generally in my social life I have very few friends also, and even same goes with my business networking. But I do know a few people who I've partnered with in my past ventures, and definitely I continue to work with them if I do newer ventures, because once you have some chemistry working with a set of people, and they can give you your own space of working, then it makes it better to start newer ventures with them rather than completely going on your own. Journally, but obviously setting up networking and probably even in my days, the amount of networking opportunities were like not as much as what it is today. But generally, I would say don't go by learning about networking from me. I'm a really bad example for that.
That's completely fine. As we conclude our interview, I want to ask you, like, what's your advice for teens thinking of entering the tech startup field? Just people who have a passion for computer programming or development and want to take it to another level.
So, first of all, I won't say startup is a field or anything. As I was saying, startup is just a different journey, right? So, the field is what problem you're solving, and it all will be determined based on that. And I would say startup has nothing to do with coding or programming. You may not know a single line of coding, or you may know zero about programming. You still build a startup, and there are great salespeople, great designers, great marketers who start startups. So don't think that if you know coding, that is the bare minimum qualification needed to get into startup. In fact, what I would say is, I think start looking for opportunities for getting into or creating your own startup, and especially if you are in a team, just go out there and try. You don't have to be perfect. I think that is very, very important, because I see a lot of times people thinking they don't know enough, they are not perfect, and they don't want to start something until the time they've done many, many things. But my one advice to them is, you don't have to be perfect to get there. The process will make you perfect, right? So you don't have to be perfect up front. So just go with that thought, just go and execute things, and the failures is what will actually teach you the real life lessons and real entrepreneurship lessons. Because even if you get textbook knowledge of some of those failures, you will not appreciate till the time you have actually, it's like swimming, right? Till the time you are in the water, you're never going to appreciate what it means to swim. So it is the same thing with entrepreneurship. You just have to jump into it and get out there. And as I said in the beginning, it's all about how much risk you have to take. Younger you are, lesser risk you're taking. So I would say just go ahead and dive in, and you will start swimming.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't have said it better myself. Just like your success as an entrepreneur depends on how much risk you're willing to take, right? And so just being able to cope with that, being able to look for more opportunities is really important, especially in entrepreneurship. So, what advice do you have for students about using their time, relationships, and opportunities to really take advantage of their passions?
So, in terms of time, relationships, and opportunities, I think kind of I think about this specific question in terms of relationships. I think especially if you're talking about specifically teens, at that age, you should be able to leverage a lot of your relationships for doing like simple learnings and uncover opportunities out of that. So my real advice there would be that don't be shy in leveraging those relationships and then look for problems. And when you see problems, opportunities will come. They will be somewhere around there. If there is no problem, there will not be any opportunity. So if it is all going too smooth, that is the most toughest thing to get into because it's already going too smooth. I would say that's what. Just look for those problems and don't be shy leveraging relationship and try to balance your time. Obviously at that age studies are equally important as much as this passion, so I think learn to balance those and balance them with your passions.
Yeah, just being able to just look out for problems, and then opportunities will automatically follow. And so this concludes our interview. Again, I'd like to thank you, Arvind, for just giving us your time here and to give insight into your entrepreneurial journey. It was a pleasure learning about your many ventures. Can't even keep a track of it on one hand, right? So again, it was a pleasure having you tonight.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you again.
Yeah, definitely. And with that,
I think you're doing something good at this age and continue doing more of this.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. And so with that, have a wonderful night, you all.